Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, sharing valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. And now, here is your host, Rob Stanley.
Hey everyone, Rob Stanley here with Sellernomics Podcast. Welcome to another great episode. So we have a very, very interesting person who's going to talk about some great subjects. So let's give the subject first. Today we're going to be talking about 10 ways to create a high-performing Amazon UK business. And I'm going to welcome onto the stage, Heloise Finch, Dr. Heloise Finch. How are you?
Hi, Rob. Great to see you. We're doing great over here in the UK. Thanks.
Yeah, so Dr. Heloise Finch is actually with a company called Sell Beyond. It actually is your company, I should say. And we're going to be talking, like I said today, about 10 ways to create a high-performing Amazon UK business. I think this is a great subject because a lot of Amazon sellers I talk to, you know, they most of them start off in the US and then they always kind of look for where's that next spot. Do I go to Canada? Do I go over to UK? Sometimes both. So I think we got some great questions to kind of help them understand some of these markets a little bit better, and also maybe help them get motivated to take a hold and try these new marketplaces. So just real quick, let's start off with what state is Amazon UK and Europe in right now? With what's the current state of the Amazon selling market in the UK and Europe?
Well, we are in a boom market, Rob, and I think that's something that US and Northern American sellers need to get their heads around. Amazon Europe revenues as a whole were up 40% from 2021 to 2022. And what I'm seeing with companies we're working in, there is a huge opportunity and a lot of organic growth. So that means for companies that I'm working with, if you're growing 20%, you are probably underperforming in the UK and Europe. There is a huge appetite for e-commerce, even post-lockdown, post various COVID waves. There are a lot of people who are interested in buying online. You might not know it, but in Europe, there is an enormous appetite for online buying. And that's not just in places like Amazon Germany, which a lot of people might think is the main market. Sure, Germany is Europe's biggest economy, but you know what? Even in France, the top platform for online buying is Amazon. Platforms like Cdiscount come second. So all over Europe, people are clamoring to buy everything online. They want toothbrushes, they want toothpaste. They're just not looking for one-off products anymore. And sellers that are in the UK, sellers that are in North America, need to come and find out what it's all about. One other thing that you need to know is that even though Brexit might be a big thing, if you're coming in from North America, that's probably going to be less of a concern than for those of us who are in the United Kingdom. So don't let that put you off.
Yeah, absolutely. So just let's clarify for everybody a little bit on the UK and Europe marketplace. There's multiple marketplaces there. And kind of where do you see a lot of, like, if people are, going to add, say, Europe or UK, is there a specific one? Are they going to a Germany marketplace? They're going to the UK marketplace. Which marketplace do they seem to be kind of going towards first? And is there one that's kind of better to kind of learn a little more on selling in Europe and kind of getting established there?
I think those are great questions. And it's going to be about your appetite for risk and your appetite for business and your appetite for learning about a foreign market. So on one hand, if you launch on Amazon UK, then you are working pretty much in the same language as your market if you're in Canada or the US. We have a lot of similar consumer appetites, even if there are 2 or 3 little words that might be different in American English and British English. And Amazon is highly, highly dominant in the UK. The British people have almost the highest appetite for buying on Amazon across the Europe. So that's something that you have to be aware of. Be we know that there has been some political things. So getting stuff from Europe to the UK or the UK to Europe will be a bit of a logistics challenge. There, it wasn't quite so easy as it was. The other option is to launch straight in continental Europe. Now that means for most people, you're going to focus on Amazon DE, Amazon Germany. So if we know that there are the size of Europe, the European market as a whole is about the size of North America. So that's 250 million people, about a similar size economy, but it's fragmented. You've got Amazon UK, Amazon France, Amazon Germany, Amazon Spain, Amazon Italy, and so on and so on. But Amazon Germany is the biggest Amazon marketplace. But you know what? They speak German over there. So we're already going to have to deal with getting listings done, Amazon SEO in German, making sure that German consumers are going to want your stuff as much as American consumers do. Alternatively, you can start in a slightly smaller market, which is the UK. So that's Europe's third largest economy is the UK. But there are going to be a lot of factors that make it easy to test. Now, one thing you also need to know is that Amazon.com is the most competitive and saturated Amazon market. There is less competition in Amazon UK, and there is less competition across Europe. So the size of the prize is more fragmented than the US because there are all these different Amazon marketplaces, but there is a lot of opportunity, and it depends whether you want to lead first with English or you want to lead first with the size of the economy and the opportunity to sell across the rest of the EU. And those are business decisions that everyone's going to make for themselves.
Yeah. So actually, we did have a question come in. It's funny. It's actually right in line with the question I was going to ask. They were asking more about like what products are popular in the UK or European marketplaces, but I think that could be real difficult to drill down to products. So let's go with more like categories. I mean, we just came off Q4. It was really hot. What kind of categories have you seen that are kind of popular in the UK European marketplace? And then do you find that some of those products that are popular or categories wise are popular in the US translate over to being popular in the UK, or is there kind of the separation there?
I guess there's two different questions, really. One of them might be about the products, and one of them might be about brands. So for sure, brand affinity in the US is maybe different to brand affinity in the UK, especially if you're selling your product on a website, you're selling it into supermarket chains in the US. You might find that people don't know the brand as well. But if you've got a private label in the US that you want to try out in the UK, I don't think there's nothing that can't be understood. What you probably want to do is work with a British person, a British agency, a British management consultancy to make sure that you're explaining it in the right way. It may be slightly different words that you might need to use, but these consumer habits in the UK and the US, and France and Germany as well. When we're buying online, we really want the same things. We have Prime, we can get Amazon stuff tomorrow. We want our toothbrushes, we want our socks, we want our cakes, we want our DIY tools. I don't think there's anything that's an absolute no in what consumers want. At the product level, of course, there is such a multitude of things that you could sell. Every seller needs to do their own research, right, to figure out whether they can sell their product profitably and whether there's a niche in their area that they can compete in, because you need to make sure that you can do better than the local sellers and grab a piece of that market share.
Yeah, that's great information, and that answered the question. Thank you. That was 2 questions, and that was perfect. So a quick question, or actually a quick tip for everybody who's listening. So if you are looking to sell into a marketplace that you're not familiar with the language, or maybe some of the translations are slightly different, I suggest you take a look at YLT Translations. Yana's been amazing for helping on that. But let's keep moving on here with brands. We were just talking about brands. And when it comes to like advertising and marketing, are you seeing some of these brands starting to kind of like focus on making their advertising target at some of these like Gen Z, Gen Alpha type people? Because that is a very big buying or genre that's starting to buy a lot more now. And my daughters fall into those, by the way. So have you seen that kind of happen, that they're kind of targeting and adjusting some of their ads for that?
So there's 2 questions there, I guess. Is the question about growth, or is the question about Gen Z, Gen Alpha?
Yeah, actually, the question would be more about like, are you seeing some brands use or adopting some of their advertising and marketing to target Gen Z and Gen Alpha?
Right. Okay. So we know that we are talking about people that are under maybe 25, 30 years old. That's who we're referring to when we're talking
Correct.
about Gen Z. Everybody likes to shop online. Some people shop on Instagram. Some people shop on Amazon. There's lots of people shop on TikTok. There's lots of things lots of ways we can go catch them. But on Amazon, what we need to focus on is mobile experience, of course, video ads, multiple videos on a listing, and to some extent, influencer marketing. There is no reason why you can't use people from Instagram who are already engaging with your brand as part of the marketing. Now, we know that with Amazon, you have to be careful. You can't show the Insta handles on your Amazon listing, but why don't you put in lifestyle pictures or content that has affinity for people that you're selling to? Of which a key one is snappy videos that get eye attention and make people just not want to leave your page. Interestingly, I've had a consultation with some Gen Zs in the team, and we've also found that shifting to paper-based marketing, so branded inserts in packaging that reflects your branded visuals, is super important. Why is that? Gen Z's into brands, Gen Z's into eco. They want to see that what you're doing is sustainable, and if you can catch people digitally, catch people's eye attention and flicker attention, doesn't have to be the most produced thing in the world, but also allow people to get things in their hand, then those are really likely ways that you're going to be able to attract that target market. Don't think that just because they are buying on lots of different platforms that they're not on Amazon as well.
Yeah, I agree. They're definitely buying on different platforms, but they're definitely on Amazon for sure. That's absolutely true. We are going to take a quick break, but before the break, I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about when we come back from the break. So 2022 has been a bit of a challenging year, as we all know. But one of the topics you kind of brought up was kind of the green or the eco-friendly type products. And I'd kind of like to know your opinion, your thoughts on the eco-friendly products kind of versus the cheap products, right? You know, there's two different ones. Sometimes people spend a little money for eco-friendly product versus a cheaper product that maybe is not eco-friendly. And I'd like to kind of know your opinion on what the effect of that is over in UK. And is that something that people should be focusing on, one or the other one? We're going to take a quick break. Well, I'll have you answer that right when we get back.
Awesome.
Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics.
Yeah, so once again, I'm here with Dr. Heloise Finch, and we're talking about 10 ways. We're probably going more than 10, but at least 10 ways to create a high-performing Amazon UK business. And right before the break, we were talking about basically cheap products versus eco-friendly type products in the UK market and European market. Why don't you tell us kind of what have you seen in that category regarding those two, and which one is maybe better or not?
That's a great question, and it comes back to one of your earlier questions about which product niches are growing right now. I'm not sure whether North American listeners and viewers will be aware of the numerous laws that have been enacted on one-use disposable plastics. So, for example, in the UK, we are moving to paper straws rather than plastic straws that you drink your drinks out of. In France, for example, it is illegal to sell takeaway food in plastic containers. Any takeaway, any snack bar, they have to have some kind of disposable container, usually paper-based. So this is indicative of stuff that's coming in from the top, laws that are being enacted to make sure that we have quote-unquote sustainable products. And also there is a ton of consumer appetite for these type of products as well. So Rob, I'm sure you can imagine, you maybe have some in your own house. We are talking about natural fiber scrubbers for doing your washing up. We're talking about bamboo washing up brushes. I might be talking about drinking straws made out of organic materials, whether that's bamboo or wheat or other items. Baby food containers made out of wood or bamboo. This is a massively growing niche. Maybe it is in the US as well, but I think it's worth understanding the appetite for slightly more affluent people to be buying this kind of product. And I think what we know is with supply chain issues at the moment, it is probably a better fit to be going for a slightly more premium, eco, and sustainable product than going for a race to the bottom because of the flooding of people into the Amazon market, because everyone's buying online. I would definitely think that this is a niche to be looking at, and there's still gains to be made in this area.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I'm in California. California is kind of known to be very recyclable and have reusable type items, eco-friendly type items. I was at a restaurant. I have to throw this out there. I was at a restaurant not too long ago. They gave me a metal straw, and it's not for me to keep. I mean, it was in the restaurant while we were having our drinks and everything. But I was like, wow, I had not seen. I mean,
Is
I'm
that
familiar
new in
with the metal.
California?
It was. I mean, I've definitely see a lot less plastic straws, but it happened to be this particular restaurant when they brought my drink. It had a metal straw, and of course, you leave it there with them, and they clean them and everything.
Because I'm going to say that maybe here we have a big cultural difference in the UK and Europe. That would be the norm, either metal or paper in the UK. And as
Wow.
I said about product packaging in France, like these are things that maybe are just coming into certain areas of the US that actually over here we may be a step ahead. But there's, if you're good at it and you can get the quantities and the USP right, you should be in this market too.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's true. And that kind of ties together too with these you were talking a little bit earlier about having some information in there about maybe the background or the story of how you came up with this and why you're doing it. That's a lot of the eco-friendly ones do have that on why they're doing it, or maybe they're also supporting a cause or something like that, that maybe they're giving some of their profits or some money to help kind of with these renewable and
That is
sustainable
huge selling.
things.
Everyone likes a 5% profit share with a charity, right? That's
Absolutely.
for these type of products on
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah. So, not to kind of shift off of this because that's great information, but let's talk a little bit about some of the, and I don't want to say bad things, but things that are kind of happening right now with like inflation's going through the roof in the US. I'm sure it is over there also. Supply chain issues are obviously a big subject right now. Kind of how are you seeing inflation, supply chain issues affecting retailers' margins this year, both either US or UK or both?
Well, I think the good news is, in a way, that everyone's facing the same problem. For once, it's not like somebody's got an advantage over something else. We are in a market where everybody's facing these type of pressures. So in terms of supply chain issues, everybody has or is likely to have problems in this area. That means if you have stock and you've been able to get the right supply chain in place over the last 6 months, you are going to be winning on the UK and Europe because there are so many people that can't get there. So you have to pat yourself on the back and say this is an opportunity, and you've got to make hay while the sun shines. In terms of inflation, well, that's the question. To what extent do you pass costs over to the consumer, or are you going to take a hit? I think everyone's having to do a bit of both. We're going to have to make our prices a little bit more expensive on Amazon because people still want the product tomorrow, and potentially take a hit on some of the items. This may mean that smaller and less profitable items are going to come out of your inventory, and you're not going to reorder them because you need to focus on what's making you profit right now.
Yeah, let's also jump into. I have all these great topics to talk about, right? So Brexit. Let's talk a little bit about how exactly is Brexit. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I try to keep up on the news, but I can't keep up with everything. Brexit's kind of done, right? Europeans have moved away, and UK's kind of moved over on its own, back to its own currency. That I know because I was just there. So they're on their own currency. But with Brexit kind of being done-ish. Are Amazon sellers confident kind of going back into selling in Europe? I mean, is that something they need to be aware of? Is it an issue? Kind
You
of
know
give
what?
us a little bit.
That's a really great question because all of last year, so Brexit happened January 1st, 2021. So the whole of last year, a lot of sellers were trying to get to grips with how to get things between the UK and Europe and vice versa, because the rules changed, except no one really knew how to play by the new rules, and they had to figure it out. Now, what we've seen at Sell Beyond is with companies that persisted in sending things into Europe or getting things from Europe over to the UK had a competitive advantage. It's an admin problem. Somebody in your organization, or you go hire someone that's good at admin, good at operations, can figure out the paperwork. It's not a deal breaker. Many companies that we know that stayed in Europe and just tried to get over the admin problems of Brexit have made huge gains because of Brexit. A lot of other UK sellers said, it's too difficult. I can't do it. We'll just leave it for a year. Well, do you know what? Their organic rankings tanked. They're now not in the top seller listing, and they are having to spend 6 months, 8 months to try and crawl their way up the organic rankings. And these are companies that were doing really, really well pre-Brexit. So for those that have stayed in the game, they've had huge advantages. That means for everybody else, there's still a lot of space in Europe. So what I'm saying is, pre-Brexit, your Amazon Europe, pretty competitive. Last year, a ton of UK sellers came out of the market on Amazon Europe because the admin was too difficult. That means for the people that stayed, they've made a ton of increase in revenue. And that there's a huge opportunity for people that are interested in going into Europe, so Germany, France, Spain, Italy, Poland, Netherlands, because there's a lot of sellers dropped out of that market, and ones that have stayed in are trying to still crawl up the rankings and get back to where they were. So I would say that Amazon sellers should be confident about getting back into the EU. The paperwork is doable, the customs is doable, the VAT registration is doable, and there's a ton of opportunity, and that market is growing.
That's great. Great information. Again, I mean, this is absolutely some great info, especially any sellers that are looking to transition into selling into the UK and Europe. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to find out from Heloise about the 3 core things that Amazon brands should be concentrating on when selling in EU, the European marketplace, right after this commercial break.
Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics.
Yeah, so be sure to head on over to GETIDA.com/Sellernomics. And once again, I have Dr. Heloise Finch, and we're talking about way more than 10 ways to create a high-performing Amazon UK business. And right for the break, I was asking, and we'll go ahead and ask the question to Heloise, 3 core things that Amazon brands should concentrate on when selling in the European marketplace.
Okay, I'm going to start with people. Who is in your team, and can they get you there on Amazon Europe? So that means, number one, who is the strategic lead in your company? Is that you? Is that someone you work with? What's the strategy? We're going in with Germany. We're going in with UK. Which products? Which ones are going to be most competitive? Somebody needs to take the lead, do a bit of analysis, and start making decisions. Then, who's in your team? Do you have the capacity to create those listings on Amazon, get them translated, or get the Amazon SEO done, get the marketing right for those target markets? You want to have the right team in place to launch in new marketplaces, because it's not quite the same as the US or Canada, but there's a lot of opportunity. So once we get people out the way, then we want to look at market opportunity. Do the numbers, because there is a lot of space to be premium in Europe. There is less competition than in the US, and it's worth taking the time to do the analysis, do the market research, make sure you're positioning your pricing at the right end of the market. And then the third one is costings for shipping, costings for pay-per-click. How are you going to launch in these markets? Don't bite off more than you can chew. You need the right people in place. You need the right market opportunity and analytics, and you need to know the numbers. What we see a lot of times for people that are trying to transition in the EU is they try and do everything at once. They think, well, do you know what? We're going to launch with 70 SKUs. Or do you know what? We're going to try and launch on France, Germany, Spain, Italy, Poland, Netherlands, UK, Ireland at the same time. Be sensible. It's a huge opportunity, but make sure you stagger, make sure you put a plan in place, get the right people to help you put a plan in place. So people, planning, and paying the right amount of money to sell things at a profit.
I like it. Those are right on track. So we've been talking a lot about kind of people transitioning into selling in Europe and the UK. I'm sure there's some people listening that are already selling on there. For the current people that are selling in the UK European marketplace, what kind of suggestions would you make to kind of help? What tips would you give them to kind of help them grow their business? What have you kind of seen that might help them out?
That's a great question. And this is a core part of what we do at Sell Beyond, is help you create a high-performing Amazon business. And you know what? We take a business perspective from this. Ads is the last thing you should be worrying about. We want to make sure, have you got your stock and your inventory management in place? Do you have your on-page marketing sorted? So many times people are paying a ton of money for ads when really they should be focused on making incremental gains in their sessions, organic sessions, in their conversion rates, their unit session percentage, and in utilizing the Amazon features. And the third thing that brands should be focusing on and that we see a lot is process and structure. Do you know what? That might sound boring, but that means getting the business to work without you. So I have a lot of Amazon sellers that come to work with Sell Beyond who have had growth. They've had really good growth, and either their growth is stable, they're not growing anymore, they don't know why, a competitor's taken a part of their market. They're like, what do we do? And now it's time to run your Amazon like a business. Let's get the people in place, the process is right, and start focusing on the proposition rather than throwing money at ads, because there's always a huge ton to be gained there without throwing more at advertising. Advertising is important, but let's refine that proposition and make sure we've got the people in place and the structures in place.
You answered my other question. I was going to have you tell us a bit about Sell Beyond. And I do want you to touch a little bit more on it. So why don't you just give us kind of a brief and a little bit about yourself, kind of where you came from. How did you get to the point of Sell Beyond? I know that could be probably a whole nother podcast.
Not at all. It's a 1 minute story. We won't need to go too much.
Perfect.
I started selling secondhand books on Amazon.com in 2006 when I was at grad school. I have a PhD in organizational behavior from the University of Michigan, and that makes me really interested in how businesses run, who the people are in the business, and how to get the most out of the business through analytics and data. So I used to work in financial consulting. I saw an opportunity in helping people grow proper businesses on Amazon, and I've been running Sell Beyond since 2015.
That's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. Okay, let's definitely tell people that are interested in maybe learning more about Sell Beyond. How did they get a hold of you? How do they get check out more information about the company? Maybe to look at using some of your services.
That's no problem at all. So you can find us on Sell Beyond on LinkedIn, on our website. We deal with 5 things. We're not just a marketing or a performance marketing agency. We're strategy, analytics, creative, commercial, and logistics. So we look at the business as a whole. You can hit me up on LinkedIn, email info@sellbeyond.com, and let's get a 360-degree view of your business and the areas that can make you a high-performing Amazon seller.
That's perfect. Yeah. So for those who are listening, just to be real clear on the website. So it's SELL-Beyond, BEYOND.com, sell-beyond.com. So if you're listening in, be sure to check that out. Take a look at their website. You can find out more information about what they do and hopefully use their services.
Right. And you can find us on YouTube as well. So Sell Beyond has a YouTube channel. We've got a ton of advice tutorials. We show you some of the hard stuff that no one else can be bothered to show you. So there's a great stuff about case logs in there. That's
perfect. I'm all about YouTube, as people probably know. If you haven't learned, I've done a lot on YouTube. I love YouTube. That's great. Check out there. I'll actually put a link if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're find this video. Take a look down the link. I'll link to their actual channel on YouTube, so that way you can go check out some of their videos and information about them. Heloise, it was amazing having you on. You absolutely provided probably some incredible information that I haven't had about UK and European selling. And it's absolutely been amazing having you here. So thank you so much for coming on.
Come and find out about UK and Europe. It's awesome over here.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of room to expand. And like you said, it's less people selling over there in the sense of not as much competition. So definitely worth taking a look at. So, well, thanks again for being on, and really appreciate all the info. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys, for listening.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, GETIDA. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at GETIDA.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.